that, of course, much of the world relies on for getting their natural gas. So a big chunk of the world's natural gas is now gone for 3 to 5 years. What did Trump do? He freaked out. Trump approved this. Trump approved this raid last night. CNN confirmed it. Wall Street Journal confirmed it. Barak Ravid of Axios, everyone's confirmed it at this point. And the Israeli press, Trump approved the raid, the Israeli raid. He wanted them to do it to teach Iran a lesson. Iran learned a lesson, all right. Like I said, they blew up Saudi Arabia, they blew up Qatar. And then what did Trump do? Trump put out this long tweet. Israel shouldn't have done that. I didn't know they were going to do it. Nobody knew they were going to do it. And I told them not to do it. They're not going to do it again. Why? Because the Arabs were livid. I mean, it blows my mind. It blows my mind, guys. And Trump made noises again about who knew the Israelis, who knew the Iranians would go after the neighbors. I mean, the fact that Donald Trump last night approved the Israeli attack on Iran's energy, and then this morning freaked out and said, no, my God, no, we shouldn't be attacking Iran's energy, means not only is he flip-flopping again, but he's flip-flopping on a lesson he learned several days ago. Remember, several days ago, we already learned that if you attack Iran's energy, they're going to attack the energy of the Gulf states that we rely on internationally. And remember, after that attack a couple days ago, Trump said, wow, no one ever briefed me on that. I didn't know Iran was going to go after the Gulf states. And we all knew it, of course. Like, I knew this for 40 years working on this stuff. Any child would have known this. But let's take Trump at his lying word. He didn't know 3 days ago that if we hit Iran's energy, they would hit the energy of the other countries in the region. Oh, my God. Right? Let's just take him at his word. Then why did he approve Israel hitting Iran's energy last night? Right? He learned 3 days ago, he never knew that if you hit Iran's energy, they blow up the energy that all of us rely on in the neighboring Gulf states. Right? I didn't know it. I would have never approved it if I knew that. But then last night, he approved it again. He approved it again last night. And this morning took the approval back because suddenly this morning he went, holy crap. Iran attacked the Gulf energy states, and now our energy is going through the roof. I mean, guys, I don't know what he's doing. I mean, this is not news, but I mean, he doesn't know what he's doing at this point. That's what's really scary. I mean, this flip-flop is so dangerous. If I'm Irani, I'm watching this and going, yes. Oh, yes. No, you know who's crying? Donald Trump is crying. I mean, Donald Trump is literally crying publicly over this stuff. I mean, our president has no idea what he's doing in this war, that he's flip-flopping, he's looking at this, and they're saying, good, right? Oh, thank you, Kim. That's a very nice gift. Thank you. Oh, I always have to get to low enough so you can see that. But if you're Iran, this is great. This is the second time Trump has blinked. The second time they've attacked Iran, and Iran said, fine, we're going after your energy. And what did Trump do? He blinked both times and went, oh, God, don't do that. Don't do that. So now Iran knows if you want to get Trump's attention, you go after the energy in the region, and Trump will back off, and Trump will cave. Trump will taco. I mean, I'm not surprised because he's an idiot. When you elect someone totally unqualified to be president and then you go to war, you should not be surprised that they're going to start a bad war and run a bad war, right? Thank you, Gene. Very cool gift. Oh, that's a fun one. What is that one? Is that Diana? Thank you, Diana. Oh, that's the really nice one. Thank you, Diana. Oh, they're all very nice. We love Gene's too. But Diana got a really nice one. Thank you, Diana. That was very sweet of you. Thank you. You get it. What else we got here? Wall Street Journal reports that Arab governments are furious with Trump that he couldn't or wouldn't stop Israel. And I love this from the Arab governments. Thank you, Animal. The Arab governments are saying they're fuming because they don't seem to have any influence with Trump, despite the heavy investment of time and money they've put into his administration. Yeah, we know they've put a lot of money in. We know that. Right? A lot of investments in Trump's Bitcoin, or not even Bitcoin, his crypto thing, and all the other crap they're doing. But what a surprise the Arab governments are learning that you don't have allies when you're dealing with Donald Trump, right? Thank you, Esquire. Siafik. You don't have allies when you're dealing with Donald Trump, right? You have not bought a friend with Donald Trump. You've bought a temporary transaction, and that was, you're only as good as your next not even your last donation. You're only as good as your next donation with Donald Trump. Yeah, you gave $500 million. That was last year. What did you do this year for Donald, right? I just love that they're sitting there going, frankly, it's what the Europeans learned, right? He's not your friend. He doesn't care about you. He doesn't like you, and he's not going to be there for you. No matter what you do, he will disappoint you again, right? He's a very bad, he's your bad husband who you already know, as Maya Angelou would say, you already know who he is, right? He's going to disappoint you again. Right, the plane. Oh, I forgot about the plane, Heather Ann. Right. They gave him that damn plane, the Air Force One, $400 million gift that Trump gets to keep. No, they also gave him billions of dollars too. Let's not even go there on that one. You can Google that one. So what else do we have? Trump is considering more troops. Last night, the story broke that in addition to the more troops earlier in the week, when Trump is sending more Marines, a Marine Expeditionary Force, that kind of sounds like the troops you would use for a ground invasion. He's sending thousands of more troops, we found out last night. And again, there is increased talk about a ground invasion of Iran. They are talking about possibly going to some of the islands. They're still kind of avoiding talking about the mainland because they're really worried the mainland is going to get everybody killed. Let me show you the map again, because I think when we're talking about this, it's important to see what we're talking about, and also to see the region, because you get a sense of kind of where everybody is. Let me I'll just pull up Iran overall. There we go. All right, we'll do our slow zoom in. So we've got this part of the globe. Even if you're not good at geography, you can recognize this. Africa, Europe's over here. Here's Italy, here's Greece, here's Turkey, Iran, Saudi Arabia. We start to zoom in. Turkey, Egypt, Saudi Arabia. I'll put my glasses on even though I shouldn't need them in principle. Iran's over here, and what do you have? You've got, this is the waterway we keep talking about, the Persian Gulf that includes the Strait of Hormuz, this very skinny little area here. This is Iran, right? Keep in mind, this is Iran up here. Actually, you know what? My mom had given me, where is it? My mom gave me this years ago. She goes, this was your father's from work. And I remember when she gave it to me, I was like, okay. She goes, you're always pointing to maps and things. You should use this. I was like, all right. So here we go. Perfect. Iran is up here. All right. Iraq over here. In terms of oil and energy, Kuwait, Saudi Arabia, United Arab Emirates. That should be Bahrain. That's Qatar. Qatar, Bahrain. We're zooming in more now. All right. That waterway. Oman. All of these guys are energy states. Dubai's up here. All of these guys are energy states. Oil and natural gas, all of them, right? Iran is all, Kuwait's hiding up here. Iran is all of this. And the problem is the oil and natural gas and other stuff has to go through this little area here, Strait of Hormuz. Well, this little area here is literally like 10 miles between this and this. So 15 kilometers or so, right? The Iranians are blowing the crap out of everything. They can also blow the crap down here, frankly, but it's easier for them to blow the crap out of everything up here. So what the U.S. is talking about is, for example, do we go over here and take Karg Island, which is over here? This is the island that Trump blew up the other day that contains, that Iran uses to export most of its oil, like 95% of its oil or something like that. And they were saying, ooh, should our Marines take this island and at least we can use this to secure this part of the Gulf? And then they're saying, ooh, there's even more islands up here, right? Here's Kish is one of the ones I've seen talked about right here. Kish comes up a lot. This big one, was it Keshem? I'm trying to pronounce these. I don't know how to pronounce it, but Keshem. This is a huge island, but it's also a big one that is often talked about. This island here, there's little islands, Hormuz is up here. So the question is, does the U.S. try to take some of these islands in order to defend this? Well, here's the problem. If the U.S. takes these islands here, the Iranians are all here and they blow us up. So then what do you do? Well, then you've got to invade here and take this land, because if we invade here, we keep the Iranians out of this land and we keep this area safe. But then guess what happens? Then the Iranians bomb this land with all of their troops here. So then we have to move and invade up to here, because those troops are firing at us. And what happens then? The troops up here fire at us. It keeps getting worse and worse and worse. That's the problem with this. Also, I will say, just to show you really quick, actually a military friend was telling me, any of these areas actually, you could say these islands up here, you could say, Karg Island, there's Karg Island all the way over here. Well, if we're occupying this little island over here, how are we getting supplies there? How are we getting fuel for our military? Food, water, fuel, right? How's it getting there? Ammunition. How are we getting it there? We've got to have supply lines. Well, those supply lines are subject to attack by the Iranians. Also, our troops are sitting on this little island while Iran is bombarding them from here. They're sitting ducks, potentially. Send ice. That's cute. Karen Walker says, send ice. Send, not as in the frozen stuff, the other guys. So that's the concern about this. I'm going to read you an article from Bloomberg in a second that was really interesting, that walks through the conundrum of trying to reopen the Strait of Hormuz. Actually, I'm going to read it to you right now. Europe does not know what to do. This is from Bloomberg. I'm going to read you several paragraphs from a Bloomberg piece. U.S. allies do not see a realistic way of reopening the Strait of Hormuz without ending the war. G7 countries have been discussing how they could help Trump. There are conversations about a framework for Hormuz security. The U.K. has sent military planners to the U.S. for talks. But the reality is these conversations are at a very early stage, and U.S. allies are not looking at sending naval assets like ships until the conflict eases. U.S. allies are yet to be convinced there is any credible military plan to reopen the strait. The U.K. has been in talks with Lloyd's of London about insurance products and prices when the situation calms. But even then, insurance is not seen as the big issue. Safety is. It marks a widening disconnect between the U.S. and Europe over the war amid concerns Trump ultimately doesn't have a plan. Meanwhile, energy prices are soaring, bonds tumbling, and interest rates are set to rise. That's the thing. Forget the fact that Trump has mistreated the Europeans for 9 years now, let alone the last year. Forget the fact he was ready to go to war with Europe last year, right? Forget the fact he called their troops basically losers and wimps and suggested that European fighters who went to Afghanistan and Iraq didn't really fight. They all hid. They were cowards. Actually, they died. They were the front lines with us. Over 1,000 Europeans and Canadians died fighting with us in our wars. But Trump called them cowards. Put all that aside. From a European perspective, you're looking at this war and going, put aside the fact that this guy hates you. What's the plan? Right? What's the plan? I mean, what's the plan with this entire thing? I don't know. Sorry, good point. Yeah, I saw that. Sorry, make mods, keep an eye. Gunther did spot a new troll. Yeah, Gunther spotted a troll on YouTube. That's all right. The mods have got to jump around to like 3 or 4 different things, so it's not fun. The mods have to do what I have to do, which is jumping around. They're not, I mean, they're just doing it to be nice. So yeah, but that's all right. I got it. And that's what you guys should do. Just let me know whenever there's somebody weird that pops up on the other services that we may not see as often. Not see as often, but TikTok's more obvious. So yeah, if you're European, you're looking at it and going, what's the point of this war? Right? Donald Trump still can't tell us why we're fighting. This morning, Hegseth claimed this morning, oh, it's about nuclear weapons. And we're like, oh, we're back to nuclear weapons again. Really? I thought yesterday it was ICBMs. And the day before that it was, IEDs. And thank you, Luis. They don't know why we're there. And if they don't know why we're there, they don't know when we're leaving, and they don't know how to judge when we leave. If you don't know why you're in a war, you can't declare victory ever, because what is the victory, right? You don't know why we're there. I mean, right? It's kind of obvious, right? If you don't know what your goal is in a meeting, how do you know when you've met the goal, right? You don't. And the Europeans are going, are you crazy? You want us to enter a war that, first of all, looks like it's a little, right, in terms of what it's doing to international energy markets, but also it looks like you don't quite know what you're doing there. And again, now we're sending more troops. Why are we sending more troops if Trump knew what was going on? Thank you, Norway, right? And that's a whole other thing, right? Why are we sending more troops? Supposedly we sent a ton of troops, which we did, and a ton of weapons. Why isn't that enough? They didn't plan. What happened that suddenly we need more troops on the ground? Because something isn't going right. They're lying to us when they say It's over. We've destroyed everything. Everything's going great. If everything's going great, why are you bringing in more troops? And by the way, they're not bringing in more troops because, oh, the troops were busy. They had a party and they couldn't come until this week. That's not why they're bringing more troops. They weren't occupied elsewhere. They're bringing more troops because they said, holy shit, we need more troops. What was the holy shit that said we need more troops? Iran closed down the Strait of Hormuz. How did we not know that Iran was going to close down the Strait of Hormuz? I don't know, because I've known this for 40 years that I've been working on these issues. I studied this stuff in graduate school at Georgetown literally 40 years ago in the 1980s. I studied this stuff. And when you talked about Iran, the first thing that came up was Strait of Hormuz closing down oil. I mean, like, I was 23 and that was like the topic of discussion at graduate school. The U.S. Pentagon knew this, the CIA knew this, the State Department knew it, and Donald Trump knew it. Because I guarantee you, in all the meetings, they told him the big risk is Iran shuts down the Strait of Hormuz. You know they did. He didn't care because he thinks he is... Look, the problem is when you're a con man for a living, I think maybe you start to con yourself. I was going to say that basically when your life is built on lies, when your reputation is built on lies, which a con man is, right? You're able to lie to people and they believe you. You, A, may start to believe the lies. Like you may think you actually are good at making decisions, right? But B, you're used to lying and having people believe you and things work out. Like you get the money or whatever it is. And you can't really lie your way through a war. It doesn't really work, right? Or again, the way that Trump tries to lie his way through inflation, right? He tries to say, oh, inflation's not a problem. And people are like, well, actually, right? Gasoline prices are up to $3.91 for regular. You know, diesel is over $5. Callum was telling me diesel's like $5.90 or something in North Carolina. You can't lie your way through inflation. Americans know what they're paying for stuff. And I think that's what he's doing with this war. He thought he could lie. And European leaders are going, like, you're lying. Now, the other thing that's happening, if things are going so well, Trump yesterday said they want $200 billion more for the war. $200 billion for the war. Yeah. Guess how much, and what's his name? My friend, Gallego, Rubin, U.S. Senator from Arizona, who's been on our show before. Rubin tweeted earlier today. He said, guess how much the Iraq war cost us at its most intense, at its costliest. The Iraq war cost us $140 billion a year. At its most intense fighting, $140 billion a year. Trump wants $200 billion for this war. As Rubin said, that should give you an idea of how long he thinks this war is going. That's enough money for a year and a half of war. Why do they need enough money for a year and a half of this war when supposedly, oh, it's going to be 4 to 6 weeks, right? That was Trump's. The administration kept putting it out there and the press kept repeating it. Oh, the administration says 4 to 6 weeks, April 1st or so. Ironically, April 1st is sort of the deadline for the 4 to 6 weeks. Yeah, April Fool's Day. Hello, surprise. $200 billion. And I went and looked this up. Guess how much Trump added to the deficit? We have a deficit of like $39 trillion. The amount of money we owe, our deficit is 39, more or less, trillion dollars. Trump added 7.9 trillion during his first presidency. Last year, hang on, I wrote this, but I've got this like all over my notes here. Hang on, 1, 2, 3. I'm putting little numbers on my pages because I'm flipping my pages around. Hang on, let me find this. All right, done with this. Where is this? Where are you? Here it is. So $8 trillion Trump added during his first presidency, his first term. This fiscal year. So the fiscal year, which is the budget year of the U.S. government, starts October 1st. So we've had 5 months, even less actually. We've had, October, November, December, January, February. The first 5 months of this year, before the war, so October, November, December, January, February. The first 5 months, Trump added $1 trillion to the national debt. The first 5 months, he added $1 trillion, and that was before the war. This stuff, people have told voters again and again and again, this is what happens very often in Republican presidencies, because they like to say Democrats spend like drunk. They say that. What actually happens is Republican administrations spend on defense and they spend on tax cuts like drunken sailors. And this is what happens every time, is that the deficit, and it's always tax cuts. And look what Trump did last time. His big, beautiful bill was like $1.5 trillion. Well, guess what happened, right? This is all, and blame Biden, exactly, always blaming Biden, right? But this is what they do. $200 billion. My health insurance, all the people on Obamacare, our health insurance potentially is going to double, potentially, because Trump got rid of the subsidies. There were 2 subsidies. One subsidy was expiring. Trump refused to renew it. Guess how much that Obamacare subsidy was that Trump refused to renew? And again, it probably will cost me $4,000 a year. The subsidy that Trump refused to renew was $25 or $30 billion. That was too much money. We couldn't afford it. 25 or 30 billion. And then he turned around and he launched a $200 billion war. And that's okay. And again, it's a war of choice. It's a war of convenience. Iran didn't attack us. Iran was not building a nuclear weapon. He lied. Iran had the ability someday to build a nuclear weapon, yeah. But guess what? He blew the crap out of them 7 months ago. I mean, I think he lied 7 months ago when 7 months ago Donald Trump told us Iran now will never get a nuclear weapon. We never have to invade again because their nuclear facilities have been so the quote from Trump was, their nuclear facilities were so obliterated that they will never be capable of building nukes again. That's what Trump told us 7 months ago. Why aren't his supporters, or frankly, even the media? The media should be all over this story and saying, why do you need $200 billion for a war that you said was settled 7 months ago? You said, remember? Not you, Donald Trump. Remember June of last year, June or July, after Trump blew up Iran and Israel did it? And the Defense Intelligence Agency said, actually, you only set back their nuclear program by a few months. And Trump went crazy, remember? And all the administration went crazy. You know, they fired people over that. You know they did, right? And they went crazy. And they said, no, we obliterated Iran's nuclear program. I remember specifically they said that uranium is so buried, no one can ever get it. And their nuclear program was so destroyed, they literally will never be able to do it again. Ever again. And what happened? 7 months later, we're now told, oh no, they're actually, Trump's guy, remember Trump's guy? Claimed, within a year, Iran, was it a year or a month? A year. Within a year, Iran was going to have between 10 and 50 nuclear weapons? Total lie. Total. I mean, you'll notice, by the way, you haven't heard that again, right? You haven't heard that one again. That lie was that was Witkoff that said that one, his negotiator. Something between 10 and 50 nuclear weapons. They don't say that anymore, right? Because that was a total frickin' lie. God. It again boggles my mind, this entire thing. All right, let's continue from my notes. A new Reuters Ipsos poll of the Iran war, 37% approve of Americans, 59% disapprove. That is very consistent. Keep the gifts coming on TikTok, by the way. Do follow me. I just saw somebody follow me. Thank you for that. But I always forget to mention, follow me if you like this. I do this show every night, Monday to Friday, 6 o'clock Eastern. We talk about the latest news from the world in general, but with the U.S. at war with Iran, that's pretty much our topic of late. Come on in, dog. And my dog, who's a senior, likes to come in and out a lot, so I kind of do that. That's a typical part of our show. But anyway, new poll, 37% of Americans support the war, Reuters Ipsos, 59% disapprove. These numbers are consistent. We are seeing consistently 59 to 60% disapprove and 37 to 41% approve, consistently. She's doing a little better today. Thank you for asking, Jeffrey. Another big concern we've got are the Houthis. The Houthis have not attacked yet. The Houthis, but they may. Saudi Arabia, in order to get around the fact that they can't export, here we'll get Dad's little pointer again. In order to get around the fact that this little point was cut off by the Iranians, so all the oil and natural gas from these countries can't get exported, Saudi Arabia has the option of exporting via the Red Sea. Well, when you export via the Red Sea, you come around here, and what happens? Houthis. Houthis are a terrorist group that occupy Yemen. They're not really the government. They're kind of the government of half of Yemen, but they're terrorists that control a good part of Yemen. Well, they've been attacking the shipping, remember, in all this area. Well, they reached a truce with the Trump people, so they're not doing it anymore. But the concern is they're going to start doing it again. And if they do, now you've shut off exports from here as well. And now things get very scary when that starts to happen, the experts say. European governments issued a tepid statement today saying, oh, we're definitely interested in doing, they said appropriate. We're definitely interested in doing appropriate moves to help reopen the Strait of Hormuz. And it was like, you're interested in doing appropriate moves. Okay. Which means, right. It was meant to be tepid and kind of New Politico poll. People in every single one of the top U.S. allies now think it's better to depend on China than the U.S. So share of respondents who say it's better to depend on China or on the U.S. They were asked, is it better to depend on China or better to depend on the U.S.? Canada, 57% said China, 23%, I should have said U.S. under Donald Trump, which I'm glad they asked that way. The U.S. under Donald Trump. Under Donald Trump, only 23% of Canadians said we should depend on the U.S. 57% said we should depend on China. Germany, 40% said China. 24% said U.S. under Trump. France, 34% said China. That's less. 25% said U.S. under Trump. UK, 42% said China. Only 34% said the U.S. under Donald Trump. The world hates us because of this man. And it's an important point to raise because that's another point Republicans like to lie about. They always like to talk about how, oh, the world respects us again. The world does not respect us. They hate us, frankly. What else we got here? Oh, yeah, sanctions. So remember how Trump was lifting sanctions on Russia? Because you know why with Russia. But Trump was lifting sanctions on Russia so they could sell more oil, so he could try to get the oil price down, except that it also puts billions of dollars in Russia's pocket, which they're using to blow up Ukraine. Now he's doing it with Iran as well. They're literally lifting some of the sanctions so Iran can sell more oil from their boats. Kid you not. Kid you not. Okay, they're lifting some of the sanctions. So they just blew up Iran's energy last night. Actually, no, several nights ago, blew up Iran's energy, oil, right? Israel blows up an oil facility, a lot of 35 oil facilities or so. Trump freaks out. Then last night, Trump tells Israel, go ahead, blow up more of Iran's natural gas. Trump freaks out. Now, to try to keep energy prices more at bay, he's letting Iran sell oil that they couldn't sell before. Guess who else Trump lifted sanctions on today? Belarus, one of the most brutal dictatorships in the world. They are a horrific dictator right on the border of Ukraine, Poland, and Russia. He's a Russian puppet. Lukashenko, the guy who runs the country, total Russian puppet. Horrific communist-style dictatorship. Okay, this guy. Well,